going for survival has to be able to sense beyond the present. And you've got to understand that what we call the present, the now, although it seems really big to us, is but a flickering moment between the past and the future.
You bet.
That's all it is. And so you have to think of time streams. You don't need to think in terms of past, present, and future. That something is streaming, and we're part of that streaming. And so, I mean, we have to know certain things. I mean, even in materialistic sense, you know, we have to understand what's happening physically and project from that what's going to happen physically. And there's no reason that the mind can't do this too.
Then could it be changed? In other words, could you view a future event and then change that event by your action?
I think so. I've managed to actually do that about 3 times in my life.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Involving what?
Well, some people were going to do things that I didn't think should be done, and I had no way of stopping them except to will it. And in fact, it did not get done.
Except to will it?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Well, now we're back to the remote influencing.
That's right. You see, you can't think of these things as separate things, like in parapsychology, clairvoyance, telepathy, PK, retrocognition.
They're not separate.
So forth. They're not separate. Mm-hmm. They're all part of us as super-duper sensing systems.
How do you feel about the ethical questions that are obviously hanging all around this?
Ethical and moral is relative to what people are thinking are ethical and moral, right?
Yes.
And if you're a fine, upstanding human sensing system, you would probably like to manage this in beneficent and procreative ways. Mm-hmm. If you happen to be a scumbag, then you might manage them differently, right? So this is all relative, you know, and what's relative cannot really be brought into the picture until you understand what these relativities are being relative to.
Well, if you're not an ethical person, you might precipitate procreation, but it would be a sidebar.
Well, you mean a random download?
Well, I mean a random seduction, I guess.
Yeah, I know. We don't know enough about ourselves. I mean, the image of the human that has been set forth in the past is really an extremely limited one. And I think that it's been supported socially and propagated through social conditioning to prevent people from becoming more powerful than they are. Actually. Power belongs to the few, and the few like that, and they don't want the rest to get powerful. So you set up a simple idea that is true as far as it goes, but it doesn't incorporate larger truths. So then this is what you teach people, you know, that the human being is a body, a physical body only. Well, it's not. Even the atoms are made of energy, and you get into the realm of psychoenergetics, energetics right away, and if you get into that realm, then everything else begins to unfold, telepathy, cognition, everything. We're sensing systems.
I am told, Ingo, that as carefully as the protocols were structured in the military program, that other things began to creep in.
Sure.
That other things began to be sensed, entities.
Right.
That is right.
Of course. Once you activate, let's say that when you go into a training program, let's say we have a full spectrum, a 100% spectrum of sensing faculties, okay?
Yes.
And in the normal case, 10% of them have been activated, and the other 90% have been barriered or kept unactivated. Mm-hmm. So you go into a consciousness, awareness, perceptual training system that is the essential goal of which is to enhance perception and awareness, okay?
Okay.
So you start doing that, and then above this initial 10%, other sensing systems begin to become activated, okay? So the more these get activated, the more you start sensing everything. you're not just confined to the initial 10%. So yes, there are beings around, there's telepathy, there's this and that and so forth and so on. So you activate, the thing that has been done is you've expanded awareness by these training programs, and to the degree that you've expanded awareness in this or that direction, you'll begin to sense other things besides what you're supposed to. And
I bet the military hated that.
Yes. Well, everybody hated it, you know. I mean this just takes down all the walls and barriers, you know. And so the only defense against this from happening is for the powerful few, the power structures, and so forth and so on, is to discredit 90% of our sensing systems.
The only problem with that is that they know that people like you are still out there.
They know about these sensing systems. That's what they know about. And I'm just a jiggle in the system here, you know. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, a person can be contained, but if the general public began aware that they're using only 10% of their sensing systems and then made noises about wanting to have more of these activated, then this becomes a real societal problem. And so in the modern West, you know, there's been a great deal of effort to say, no, you only have 5 physical senses, you don't have any more. And so the make-break point is between whether you accept that or you don't accept it. If you don't accept it, then these other sensing systems are likely to turn on in a random way.
Well, I know, but still, the knowledge of the powerful, that there are people like you out there, would be unacceptable unless you had come to some accommodation with them.
Well, I mean, if they can harness you to use for their purposes, then I guess you'd be dragged into the inside. But you see, I'm too really stubborn for that.
Well, that's what I mean. You're not harnessed now, so...
In terms of other people, there was a very famous psychic, I guess we should call him that, in Poland at the turn of the century, named Osowiecki. And he just outdid me in every direction, you know. And when the Germans at that time became aware of him, and they said, you have to come and work with us, that he wouldn't do it. And so he didn't have too much more time to spend among us. So, I mean, there's historical precedent for what I'm saying. I'm not just saying...
You're saying he was
I think it. I can show in the past, even going back to some really big, ugly societal sequences, that power, if power is to be held in the hands of the few, then the rest must be somehow depowered. And the way to do that is to confine their perceptual systems to smaller orders.
But they're never really going to harness people like you, because people like you are going to refuse to be harnessed. You're in a different realm. So it's not just Ingo, it's a lot of other people like Ingo, or with some portion of Ingo's abilities. Well, once those abilities are acquired, the rebellion is almost a foregone conclusion, isn't it?
Yes, they know that too. I mean, this is not new. I mean, inside power structures, this is not new. This has been a problem since Greek times. You know, I mean, the prophetesses survived as long as they worked for the state. Okay.
Yeah.
If they did not work for the state, then they were
eliminated.
So there's a historical stream of this that goes on through.
In modern times, you come to some sort of accommodation with them. You're still here. I must presume either we are sophisticated beyond what I thought we were, or you have come to some accommodation with them.
No. In intelligence services, there's a standard rule of thumb that you don't actually need to interact with people producing information, because you can acquire the information anyway. Okay?
Well, sure.
Okay. I mean, in the case of Puthoff and myself, this was an urgency due to the psychoenergetic threat from the Soviet Union at the time. But actually, for instance, in the Internet, everybody can put in anything they want now, right?
Correct.
And if there was a system of control, if to prevent that was more ideal than permitting it, then they wouldn't be allowed to do that, right? So the listeners, people spill their guts in the Internet, and so these intelligence services just sit back and let them spill their guts. So in my case, I've been told that I'm free to do what I want because they'll find out about it anyway, and they can use it. Maybe it's useful.
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
when you become a threat that they become concerned, and I'm not a threat to them because everything I've talked about already tonight is already more or less in the public domain anyway.
Well, that's a kind of accommodation, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Ingo, hold on. We're at the bottom of the hour. We'll be right back. Ingo Swann is my guest. Good morning from the high desert. This is Coast to Coast AM.
Take a ride? Call Art Bell from west of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies at 1-800-825-5033. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 775-727-1222 or call the wildcard line at 775-727-1295. To talk with Art on the toll-free international line, call your AT&T operator and have them dial 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
You know, every line in the house, of course, has been ringing since Ingo Swann has been on, and I have not yet opened the line, and I'm not sure I may not open the lines, and the reason is that Ingo does not want to comment on other remote viewers, and I know, I can see those lines blinking and ringing and dialing, and I know that you want to do exactly that and ask about other remote viewers. But I can't let you do that because he doesn't want to talk about them by name. But we'll squeeze a question in generally about what's going on in the remote viewing community in a moment.
Wanna take a ride?
You already did. The moment comes after this.
More Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Here again is Art.
All right, a quick note, a very important program tomorrow night, and I will be here live tomorrow night, Friday night, Saturday morning. I will be here. So you might want to just sort of make a mental note of that. That's a program you don't want to miss tomorrow night. Now, Ingo Swann has a couple of books that you really should read. And, you really should read these books. To order them, you can do that right now, actually at this moment. The lines are staffed to take your orders, and the phone numbers I am going to give you now, so you should be writing one of them down or calling, actually. It's a good time now to call. I don't know how much trouble you're going to have getting through, but give it a shot. Here they come. 1-888, these are both toll-free numbers, 453-4046. That's 888-453-4046. If that one is busy, try 877-565-8391.